Hello again, Lindsay here with the Indiana Clean Lakes program in the third part of our series of training videos. Be sure to refer back to the first two videos to see our demonstration of using a Secchi disc as well as an integrated sampler. In today's video, we're going to be going over the actual process of pouring samples into our sample bottles and the filtration process for chlorophyll. Volunteers will receive 2 bottles each month, a 125 ml bottle for total nitrogen and total phosphorus, as well as an opaque 60 ml bottle for your chlorophyll filter. So once you've collected your integrated sample and poured it into your pitcher, you're going to be ready to fill your sample bottles. For the total nitrogen, total phosphorus bottle, you don't have to do much. You just want to give your sample a good mix and then pour it into the bottle just up to the shoulder. After that, you're ready to do your chlorophyll filtration process, for which you're going to be using a filtering apparatus and a handheld pump. So the goal is to filter enough water through so that you have chlorophyll accumulating on your actual filter paper. Okay. These are sent to the volunteers each summer with enough in their packets to sample all season. You'll be using your own set of tweezers to take your filter paper and put it on your filtering apparatus. Once you've got your filter loaded onto your filtering apparatus, you're ready to actually start filtering. So since you've already collected your Secchi measurement, you can use your nifty cheat sheet card, which will tell you, according to the Secchi depth, about how much volume of water you're going to be filtering. This is just a starting point, so you don't have to stay to this. You can always filter more water, but you just want to be able to get enough chlorophyll on the filter that we can actually measure it here in the lab. On the other side of the card, we also have a guide for how to see how much chlorophyll you got on your filter and if it's enough. So you always want to have it at this really nice dark green so that there's plenty of chlorophyll for us to measure. Once you know how much volume you're going to filter, you're going to use your 250 ml graduated cylinder to measure out that water. We need a very precise volume, so always make sure you record exactly the volume that you filter. When filtering, always make sure that all of the water has been filtered completely through the apparatus before you actually extract your filter paper. Additionally, when pumping, you don't want to go above 7 psi of pressure on your hand pump. If you go above this, you run the risk of breaking your filter. When you're ready to extract your filter paper, you can use the lever on your hand pump to release all of the pressure back to 0. At that point, you can remove the hand pump from your filtering apparatus. You can unscrew the top part of the apparatus. And while trying to minimize as much contact with sunlight as possible, you can extract your filter paper. And when doing this, you want to fold the paper over in half 3 times before putting it into your opaque bottle. After collecting these, you always want to make sure that you've written your sample dates as well as the volume you filtered for chlorophyll on your sample bottles. Immediately after collecting these, you want to put them in the freezer until they're ready to be shipped to our lab. So with this overview of the process, you're ready to watch our field demonstration of how to collect a TNTP sample and filter for chlorophyll. I want to thank you all for staying tuned on this series of training videos and let you know that you can always reach out to us by phone or email with any questions or concerns that you have. If you're interested in being a volunteer on your lake, please reach out to us and we'll get you set up to start collecting data. Lastly, we want to thank you all for always working hard to keep Indiana lakes clean. To that, let's talk a little bit about this. We just want to make sure that we've kind of got in mind the volume that we're going to filter for chlorophyll. And at this point, you can, I'm going to put my hat back on. So at, what was it, 2.25?
2.25.
So we're going to be in the 1.5 to 2.5 foot range. So that's going to be starting at about 200 mils of water to filter. First, we're going to rinse. We're going to rinse all of our equipment. And I actually recommend, because it's easier if we sample over here, let's rinse our stuff over there. A few things to rinse.
Are you going to go rinse back there?
So we're going to start with all of our equipment that we're going to put our sample water in. For the filtering apparatus, we don't do anything with the water once it's been filtered. so I'm not worried about rinsing this because it doesn't matter. But we do want to rinse the top. There are some pieces that are kind of small, and so you just want to be careful when rinsing. I would just rinse one thing at a time. Oh, thank you. Thanks. You want to hold that? I appreciate it. And it's good practice to do 3 rinses of everything.
So a question, so you don't drop stuff over the boat? Grab a 5-gallon pail and just bring up enough water and then rinse it 3 or 4 times?
You could do that as well. I would rinse your pail first.
Yeah, of course.
And then, yeah, you could do that. But usually this piece has a little O-ring. So, and as you can see, they can fall out pretty easily. So you just want to be mindful of that when you're rinsing. And I like to make sure my lid's screwed on tight. And then I just rinse it, I just fill it and dump it. And most of this floats, but not all of it. Thank you. Okay. So now I'm ready to put my filter on. Once I've rinsed it and got the filter plate a little wet, the filter will seat better. Things to keep in mind with this filter plate is that this piece comes out, and sometimes people forget if it goes this way or goes this way. It does need to go with the rough side up. So you can see this one's smooth and this one's rough. So you want it to be rough side up or else it won't pull through very well. So you'll notice really quickly if you got it flipped the wrong way, you won't be able to filter water through. And if that happens, you'll have to dump it and start over.
Does it have a lip on it, like the filter itself, or is it still round? I mean, can you put it in the other way?
That's just
This way?
Yeah.
It'll fit in, but it doesn't
seat though.
It doesn't seat very well. So yeah, you'll know from that way too. This fits flush with the rest of the filter plate. Yeah. So we want to set it here, and now we're ready to put our filter on. When opening these filters are really light, so it's really easy for the wind to blow them away. What I like to tell people is open it Pac-Man style, just kind of like this, and then just use your forceps to pull one filter out. Then go ahead and shut it, put it away. And then you're just gonna set your filter on top of your filter plate. Like I said, with it being wet, which I touched it a little bit so it dried it out some, but with it being wet, it'll help it seat. You just wanna put it in the middle so that you can catch all of your chlorophyll and you don't get any water coming through there. So then, I'll take this lid off really quick. When you're ready to screw down the top part of your filtering apparatus, you notice it's loose. You want to screw this white part down, but if you've screwed it down and it's still jiggling like this, it's not seated properly. So you want to make sure that once you've screwed it down, it's threaded so that this top piece is not jiggling. Okay. You guys see the difference between those?
Be firm.
Yeah, so it should be firm, it shouldn't jiggle. If it does, you will lose sample. So you just want to make sure that that's screwed on tight. Okay. Graduated cylinder. So like I said, this graduated cylinder is marked at 250 mils. It's a little bit hard to see, but you also, like once you've done it several times, you kind of get a sense for where the 250 mark is. So our starting point is 200. So I'm gonna go ahead and measure to 200, and you'll notice that the middle lines, like it goes 190, 210, 230, so just keep in mind that those middle lines are gonna be the 200, the 100, etc. So just keep an eye out for that.
You could mark your grid a level with your Sharpie.
Yeah, sure. If it was tough for you to see, feel free to mark it with Sharpie. Before you pour any sample, you wanna make sure to always mix it. And that just keeps anything that's suspended in it from going straight to the bottom. You want to keep it all suspended as evenly as possible. I like to tilt my cylinder when I'm pouring. I just think it's a little bit easier. You do it however works for you. If you overfill it a little bit, that's okay. Just write down whatever volume you ended up filtering. If you overfilter it a lot, like I just did to 210, that's okay. I'm just gonna go ahead and filter that whole 210. Once I've poured in here, I have to filter everything I've poured in here, or I need to dump it and pour more.
So you can't just pour a little off?
No.
Okay.
Don't pour any off because you could be losing sample, and you don't want to do that. So you wanna be as precise as possible in doing this. Okay. Also, thing to keep in mind is since chlorophyll is light sensitive, you want to kind of keep it as shaded as you can. Since it's pretty overcast right now, we're not overly concerned, but like if it was really sunny, I might even turn my body so that my body is shading. Yeah, or
Come
yeah.
under the shade.
Yes.
Yep.
That would work
And you
well as
always
well.
do all of this in the boat right when you've done it. You don't take the picture back to shore.
I wouldn't. I just go ahead and do it. That way if you need to get more, you can get more.
That's a good idea.
Yep. So I'm gonna pour it in. And I like to just go ahead and set this on top of it. You can screw it in if you want. And I'll hook my hand pump up. And as I'm pumping, you can see,
Oh yeah, it's pulling.
start to pour water down through there. And that's about the stream it'll go in. If there's a lot of chlorophyll in your sample, it will go slower. The more you collect on that filter, the slower it's gonna go. So towards the end, it's gonna go slower because you're collecting on that filter. And again, I wanna make sure I'm not going above 7 PSI. Right now I'm at about 6. Everyone can see that. Like I said, it's the black numbers on the outside. And once I've built up pressure, I can kind of let it sit for a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this off just to look at my filter and see how green it is. Remember, when we go to pull the hand pump off, we wanna make sure all the pressure is out of it. So I hit this little lever and now the pressure is at 0.
Okay.
And I'll move this so you guys can see better. Sorry about that. Again, like I wanna kind of keep it shaded.
Sunny now.
Yeah, as much as I can.
Slide it forward. It's a little more shady forward.
So this is just a practice. This is not the sample we're gonna take. But so you can see that's still like decently light. There's some brown on there. It will be a little green brown. It won't necessarily be bright green every time. But I might go ahead and filter, I don't know, maybe 50 more. And also keep in mind that your well, I think you guys have a bigger one. So you have a liter here.
Oh yeah.
I think I only have 500.
Okay.
So if you need to filter more than a liter, you fill the whole thing, you're obviously gonna need to dump it before you can filter anymore.
Right.
And so if you do that, that's okay. You can just take this top piece off, make sure that you kind of keep your filter plate covered and just sort of set it like this, dump your water.
It doesn't hurt that you touched.
No, touching the bottom won't do anything to it. Touching the sides is fine because I want to kind of keep my fingers off of the top of the filter as much as I can, but I can touch the sides, set it down, all that, just try to keep it out of the sun. So if you set it over it like this, that's totally fine. It's protected from the sun at that point. So then I'm just gonna go ahead and filter 50 more so that you guys can see that process. So we wanna do a mix. Yep, so we are just making sure everything stays suspended. We wanna do about 50.
Oh, I went high.
That's okay, what'd you get?
60.
That's okay. So if I'm pouring 60 into here, I did 210 the first time, I'm gonna be at 270. You wanna keep that in our heads. Or if you wanna keep a little scrap piece of paper, that's fine too. Just keep in mind of how much you're filtering.
So if you didn't have the vacuum pump, would it still?
Filter?
Really
Filter through?
slowly,
Yeah.
and probably
It is
not
right
all of the
now.
water would go through.
Okay.
Because you're pumping. I'm going, oh look, it is going.
Yeah.
You already started pumping.
Yeah,
Yep.
she started pumping.
I'm about 7, I can set it down. And while I'm waiting for it to finish filtering, I can go ahead and fill my tea and TP bottle if I want to. Same procedure for this. Do a little bit of a mix. Make sure you're not putting your fingers around the rim of the bottle or anything like that. Because like I said, you have phosphorus on your hands 9 times out of 10. So you want to make sure to keep that out of your sample.
These are sterile, so we don't have to rinse them.
No, don't have to do a rinse. They're acid washed before I send them to you. And so they stay shut until they get to you. So they're okay. They don't
And there's
need
no
a-
chemicals in them.
Nope.
They're just collection bottles.
Nope, just collection bottles. Nothing in here will hurt you.
Okay.
If you do, like, maybe you drop it and you accidentally touch the lid, that's okay. You can go ahead and do a sample rinse. There's nothing wrong with doing a sample rinse. So I'm gonna mix,
That's a good point. So there aren't any chemicals that we're really interacting with
no.
in any of these steps where we need
Nope.
to wear protective.
You're gonna fill it to the edge there, what I call the shoulder.
Yep.
Kind of see where it comes over. The reason why you're only filling to the shoulder, not to the top, is because we freeze these. And so we need a little bit of space for the water to expand. If you overfill them, they'll bust when we put them in the freezer. You all know this. just so that I've said it though. They will bust. So then that's your sample for that. And now you are done with your chlorophyll. Again, I want to make sure that I'm letting pressure off, and you can hear it. Just double check that it's come out. For me, this is pretty good. Like I said, this it's a little bit brown, and that's okay. You just want to make sure that you have enough material on there so that you can filter. By all means, you can filter more than this if you want to. If you wanted to go ahead and do 300, that's okay too.
You just need to know how much was
Yes,
filtered. 'cause
just
it's
put
a
how much.
formula.
Exactly, exactly. So once I filtered enough, again, this is practice. Honestly, if I was out here doing this, I might go ahead and filter 30 more just to make it to an even 300, because it won't hurt it to do more. And it was still going through pretty quick, so you could do more.
Oh, you folded it.
So, okay, so I folded it over once, and then once I folded it over, I can put my finger on it because I'm touching the back of the filter. There's no material on the back of this filter. So I folded it over once. I'm gonna fold it over again. And then I'm gonna fold it over one more time. Someone I trained a couple weeks ago called this a pizza fold.
Yeah.
That's what I was
So sure, pizza fold. And then you're gonna take your opaque bottle. Mine's blank, yours is gonna be labeled, of course. So you're gonna take that. Don't have to worry about touching the rim. There's nothing on your hands that's gonna hurt this. And then you're gonna go ahead and put your filter in. Try and keep it away from the sunlight as you're pulling it out as much as possible.
Do you freeze that too?
Yes, so that's the other thing I was gonna say. Once you've collected your samples, if you're gonna be out on the water for a while, I would take a cooler out with some ice in it so you can put these on ice. It's for both of them, it's pretty important to keep them as frozen as possible for as long as possible before they get to us. If you're going straight back to your house, probably not as much of a concern, but as soon as you get back, go ahead and stick them in the freezer. And then if it's your first month, like for example, I'll send out May, June bottles at the end of April. So if once you've collected in May, you would go ahead and freeze those, then you'll collect in June, freeze those, and then you'll send them back to me.
And you'll label them.
Yes,
We'll label
they
them.
will be labeled, yes. So speaking of, on the label, you're gonna fill in the date that you sampled, and then you're gonna fill in for chlorophyll the volume that you filtered. You're also gonna write the volume you filtered on your data sheet. So for example, we'd write 270 on there, and then we'd write 270 on here.